Welcome back to another episode of the Dope Stroke Podcast Show. Lots to talk about today. As per usual, I am joined with Trotty Golf and Chris Ryan, and it's going to be another great show where we're going to talk a lot about what's happening in the world of professional golf. We're going to cover some equipment queries and also talk about Chris Goddard's win and also his backswing, which seems to be a little bit of a talking point amongst our elite level golf coach in this podcast studio. Other than that, how are you boys doing? Good weekend, other than the Liverpool result. Did anybody watch the Seahawks glorious win? I am not an NFL guy, so I wouldn't know what to cover, but over to you, boys.
I think we need to dive into this Super Bowl. I think Trotty needs to educate us a little bit because my knowledge is, like, it started, I think the coverage started at 10 p.m. Like, I'm at that age now where 10 p.m. is only a rare occasion I see 10 p.m. So I didn't watch it. I believe the Seahawks won. I believe it was a defensive masterclass, but Trotty, you're gonna have to throw the light on this because we know nothing.
Well, I mean, Jesus, if we're turning to me for NFL like aficionado, that's not good for a start. But I will say there's a lot of Seahawks fans around where I live for some reason. I don't know why. I guess people come down from Seattle and start living in California where we are. It makes a bit of sense because it's basically England up there. So yeah, a lot of Seahawks fans. My understanding is that they were a great defensive team anyway. So we've got to dive into a couple of things before we get onto this. First, most energetic intro Daryl's ever done. Second, I haven't made an intro for the last 3 weeks, so that's why it feels so energetic, because I couldn't get the damn thing to work, so we're here. Third, I just get all my football through Q, the fella that does my videography, and I know that listening into just the peripherals of the whole conversation, defensively, I think they were a class team. 4, Drake May, the quarterback for the Patriots, young guy. I met him, believe it or not, 2-3 years ago, before he was even drafted by the Patriots, and gave him a club fitting and I don't know anything about football. I mean, I know a bit more than you boys, and that's it. Met this guy, big, not giant, but big, and probably one of the nicest blokes I've ever met. And proceeded to just make content. It was more content rather than a fitting with him for like 3 or 4 holes. Really, really, really nice guy. Very humble, top man. Obviously, for him to make the Super Bowl final, awesome. They got battered, like you say. It was just like he kept getting nailed. I get the impression in that game. I don't know, like I say, but in that game, not particularly his fault. I think guys just like broke the line and just kept getting to him and just hammering him. It's about like taking ground, isn't it? It very much reminds me of like original America, like take yards, take yards, take yards. I imagine that's where the game was founded from. Finding land, discovering new places. But I don't know if it's big news for you boys, but I'm super interested in it. Always have been, like the Olympics, Winter Olympics. I don't know if you boys like.
Yeah, I've been watching.
I know we're going to talk about waste management, and I get it, but it's not really been on our TV much. I've been trying to hammer the Olympics, which is really hard to watch on the time zone that we're on. But poor Lindsey Vonn. I mean, I think she might be one of my heroes at the moment. I've seen this crash in detail. Again, I'm no downhill skier, guys, but I'm watching this thing, and it's like, by the looks of it, she carved in to get that turn to set up the next one. I don't know if the left knee with the ACL problems couldn't take the pressure of the turn. I don't know if she was higher than what she thought, but you have to sit there and think, if she misses that gate based on the line, she's teed up for the next gate. And then she's like on her way, isn't she? I mean, she's just phenomenal. And before we get on it, did you see her in the start? Like, have you seen it? Have you seen the whole run?
Yeah.
Did you see her in the start gate? She is like a bull. Like, I wouldn't want to fight Lindsey Vonn. No chance. No chance.
You can see why Tiger liked her, I guess. You know, but each their own.
I mean, I'm no expert either. I know nothing about, well, pretty much any of the sports that are going on in the Winter Olympics. But I mean, she was 41, just coming off an ACL. Like, was it not inevitable that she was going to do something that wasn't great, that was career ending? I mean, like I say, I don't know anything about this sport, but it feels like if you've got that injury, there's a few sports that you don't want to be doing. golf's probably pretty safe, but that is probably one that you're putting a lot of stress through your legs and your joints. And I just think maybe it was a kind of, maybe she was advised not to, but it was like, hey, look, if I don't make this Olympics, I'm not making the next one, so let's just go and see what happens. But it obviously.
So my understanding was, Bubsy, my understanding was like it was 9 days ago. So I think these things take like 9 weeks to get anywhere near. And obviously she has a titanium right knee. So last week at Kronsus, which is where the Swiss tournament is that we all attend, she gets a crash, which I think is a bad crash. I mean, it's a bad crash. It damaged her ACL, but she goes from that, and she was out doing training runs and scoring like top 3. She won like a tour event earlier in the season. So she was one of the favorites. Now she's 41, and she said 2.5 years ago when she decided to do this, that Cortina, which is where it is, Milan Cortina, is like one of her favorite tracks. So obviously it's statistics, isn't it? It'll be exactly like the golf. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but TaylorMade went into, it might have been TaylorMade, it might have been someone else, but Rory went into a statistical sort of like rabbit hole to figure out, he wanted to win Augusta that much. This was like an 8-year plan. And he figured out, like, do I play the Middle East? Do I play Phoenix? And statistically, each year, he would try and cross off based on the analytics saying, like, analytics say he should play really well at Phoenix. And he tried it 1 year and he didn't win the Masters. Then obviously by doing that, he's given up a lot of money by going all the way to the Middle East. Let's just call a spade because he's getting paid like by sponsors to do that. Now in skiing, my understanding is that they don't make much money for prizes at all. I literally saw something this morning on social media. So it's all about appearances for your sponsors, appearances for your partners, social media posts. I don't know. Again, I don't know if you follow Lindsey Vonn on social media, but the social media was hammering out her profile. So she has to do it for the financial gain that is her career. So it got me thinking, well, is she teeing this thing up simply for the financial gain? Because there has to be an element that in the contract, it'll be written that if you start, we pay. If you don't start, we don't pay. But I do think analytically, going back to that and trying to give us some golf crossover, because people have come here not to listen to us break down the Super Bowl or the skiing. But the bottom line is that Rory would cover the start of the season analytically. How would you perform best at Augusta based on what was required of your body and your game? Obviously, he's a big whoop guy. And flying, he used to talk, didn't he, in interviews that when I go transatlantic and change time zones, my whoop goes all over the place, blah, blah, blah. All of that and him playing Phoenix was in an attempt to figure it out, which is, I think, is why Scotty plays Phoenix, because that tournament is just chaos, no? I mean, it's on Super Bowl weekend. You got all the fans. It's a great venue. It's a great golf course. It's good greens. That's the other thing that I want to get into. I'll let you comment on Scotty, but the greens, mate. I mean, Brooks made a putter change. And again, like vultures, the reps on the green, like repping on tour for clubs is a little different, maybe very aggressive. You know, you don't want to get a putter change in at Torrey. And you don't want one in at Pebble because of the way the grasses are. And again, in England, we have mud and we have crap grass. That's what you have. You have like slightly mud and mud. You don't need a different putter for that. But out here, you have this Poana grass, and later in the day in Torrey, the thing bubble. So you want the pure greens of the desert. So when you get Brooks in a mallet in the desert, when you're sitting there doing that, you're like, oh, this is quids in. I haven't looked at his strokes gained because my preparation's been poor for this. Maybe we can get Lloydie on the old strokes gained. I know he hit it crap on day one, so his pace putting was needed. A mallet putter helps you with pace putting. A blade is more like a feel thing. If I have to give you a chat GPT, give me a 2-line answer, that's it. But analytics come into everything. And I think Lindsey Vonn pegging it up in Milan was all about the analytics of who she is and what she is. And some sponsorship dollars must have been on the line.
Just staying a bit on audiences and fans a little bit as well. So, and I'm rewinding it back to the Super Bowl. So an average Premier League game has more views than the Super Bowl in terms of views globally. Yeah. Obviously in America, the Super Bowl is bigger, it's massive. But when you start to then think about the international appeal of the Premier League, I'm not saying it dwarfs the Super Bowl, but the average Premier League game is bigger. I want to say the El Clasico, so the game in La Liga, which is Real Madrid against Barcelona, that receives about 2.5 times more views than the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think you've got to slow down a bit here, though, and let's break that down. One,
no, I'm breaking it down because I'm saying it's an international type feel. But actually, where I'm trying to go to with me even mentioning that is it's all about different audiences in different places, and then bringing that back to waste management and talking about fan behavior, fan engagement on the 16th. Like, I don't know, I quite like the idea that that at waste management, that's what you're going to see at that tournament. So it's almost predictable it is predictable in advance. Is it good for the game? Is it bad for the game? What do you guys think?
Well, let's just bring it. We'll come to that in a minute. But in terms of views, like if you've got the Masters, right, or the Super Bowl, whatever you want to, sporting event you want to do, if you go about 20 years, really easy. How many people were watching that event? That's your number. When you say viewing figures now, are you talking social media posts? Are you talking YouTube videos? Are you talking, because that's a different way that some people are consuming sport now. I wouldn't have watched the Super Bowl simply because of the time it was on and I'm fast asleep, but I will consume it in different ways. I'm interested in it. I'm a kind of a viewer, but maybe a casual viewer, because I'll scroll through social. First thing I did this morning was
you're a peeper. Are you a peeper?
I'm a secret voyeur. But I'm sort of interested in that event, and I didn't watch it. And had social media not been a thing, I might have stayed up to watch it. But because social media is a thing, I knew that in the morning I could see the clips, I can see the highlights. So did those viewing figures take into account the likes of me, and I'm guessing the likes of you who followed it through socials? Because that's a different landscape, surely.
I guess it is a different landscape, but if you base it on live, I'm just doing a quick search here.
So let me ask this whilst you do your little search then. Here's my take. Clasico, which is Real Madrid versus Barcelona, appeals to Latin America big time. You wouldn't believe, I got a ton of Mexi mates here through the football, and the Mexican boys love Real Madrid. Like, they love Real Madrid. And they're not really into a Premier League, and they'll watch it, and they take the piss out of me in Liverpool and blah, blah, blah. But like Champions League, they're all in. They're all watching that. So I think that you're appealing to the South American boys with the Clasico. So that brings in a huge demographic. The other thing is, you've only really got, I think it's the Germans like the NFL. The London kind of likes it with the expats. But Asia's not into NFL at all. So you lose that. Asia, having lived there, big into the Prem. They'll be somewhat into the Clasico. But that brings me halftime show, Super Bowl. You boys aware of that much and like how big that is? So then Bad Bunny does it and speaks the whole thing in Spanish.
Yeah.
So, but it's an attempt, I think, to bring in more people.
Yeah, I want to just go back before, and I'm interrupting slightly, but it looks like Super Bowl, this is based on last year's figures, was 130 million live viewers, which is across the United States and international. And then El Clasico, the latest one that just took place, was 650 million viewers worldwide.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Give us that again. I was reading Lloyd's thing he's put in here about the Strokes game. Tell me that again.
So the Super Bowl last year, so 25, that had 130, huh?
Yeah,
130 million views. And El Clasico, the most recent one, was 650 million views worldwide.
That's got to be what I just said. Then it's got to be.
That's ridiculous. I didn't think it was that close. I would have thought the Super Bowl, being what it is, would be pretty close to a World Cup final. But clearly, a World Cup final is.
Well, that's the thing in America. The World Cup World Cups this year in the States. From the last time I was in America, I think a lot of the local Americans are in for a shock when they start to see the volume of fans coming over to watch the matches, to be part of the atmosphere and be part of the show. It's going to be overwhelming, I think. And in a cool way, it's good for America. I think it's good for American football. American football is American soccer. But let's see what that means. But I think it's going to be interesting. But the thing is, though, what you have to applaud about American fan base is bringing it back to waste management for a moment. I mean, they get right up for these sporting events, don't they? That's like a whole different kind of culture and kind of background. And
Massively.
then it's also different depending on where you go in America. You know, look at New York Ryder Cup versus maybe other places in America like California. Just fan behavior is so different across the whole territory.
But the culture here, though, is about making the whole day about the event and the whole, like, we get into it. But I was thinking about it yesterday, like the streets go quiet, the grocery stores fill up, and then everyone gets ready for the Super Bowl. So I used to surf, don't surf anymore. If you know, as a newbie-ish surfer, you go surf during the Super Bowl, 100%. There's no one out there. Same with like the golf club actually had a college golf practice round there, so the college kids are just out, but they do it because the members aren't going to be at the golf course. Everything shuts down. Everyone unites to watch this sport. And I think that's why the Bad Bunny thing was how it was, to bring everybody in. Then you get to the event, there's all the tailgating. Like the tailgating thing, you heard about this, right? Where guys go and set up a grill out the back of their...
Oh, yeah.
It's cool. I like that, by the way. I quite like that vibe.
It's massive. And then like into the stadiums, like, so for example, the Padres, which is the baseball team. Have I ever taken you there, Daryl, to the Padres stadium?
No.
Have you ever been there with me yet?
Yeah.
So the Padres, the stadium is... the stadium's good. I mean, it's as good as some UK. Like you'll be at the UK big ones, and you're like, yeah. But it's the facilities within the stadium is off the charts. Like the food, the drink, and the hospitality. Snapdragon. Have you been there with me yet? To the football, to the soccer down here?
Is that where we watched the US women's team?
Yes. So
that's the one. Yeah, that's good.
One arena.
Yeah, that's good.
And the food, and you can watch it walking around eating your food. You don't have to go back to your seat. It's crazy. So yeah, it's an all-day affair. That's what the waste management is. I think just to put a close on the loop of the strokes gained putting, your boy Brooks lost 3.3 strokes putting last week. I think it's not a bad thing though if I'm a putter rep for these companies, because you got him out of his 5-time winning blade and you've got to look in. What isn't great is you got it in Phoenix where the greens are pure and they should be making everything. And he didn't make much, but he didn't make a sausage. Losing 3.3 is no sausage meat was damaged on those greens. So they got to do some work. But if just so you know, pro tip, anyone out there, this is for all the reps that hopefully tune in and listen to us. Maybe they can comment. If you're getting a putter in play at Phoenix, the trick is you take 3/4 of a degree off that thing. The reason you get the mallet in at Phoenix versus the blade is because of the center of gravity is further back on the mallet, bigger back, so the back of it's further away from the ball. You stick your mallet less loft, which gives it a better roll on greens like that. Then what you do, you keep an eye on where that player plays. If they're going to pebble, the first thing you do on Monday when you get there or Tuesday when you see them is you add 3/4 of a degree. And they'll be like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're like, mate, you cannot use your Phoenix setup here. Then they'll say, whoa. And you'll say, all right, don't do what Jason Day does then. Best putter in the world. You do what you want to do. Good luck this week. They'll miss the cut, and you send them a text on Friday night and say, Jason's still playing. Unlucky boys. That's how you do it.
Let me unpack that a little bit, because that's quite nuanced, and obviously a lot of people listening to this kind of that's new information to them. But let's say you've got 20 players, right? And I'm not saying they're all the same, but let's say you had 20 players who you wanted to do that with. You know, you knock the loft off at Phoenix and you add it back on at Pebble. Of those 20, and all of them go in, right, I need you to explain to me exactly why you're doing this? Or are they more in the mindset of, I trust you, I'm just going to let you do it, and I don't actually know why you're doing it? Or is it a mix?
Mix. And some of them are like, I don't want to know. Just take the putter. And some of them are like, what you doing? Obviously, those with a good eye notice that the face angles changed, and then everyone gets out going, oh, so-and-so's using a black insert putter. What's that all about? Well, think about it, dickhead. A black insert putter, you're not the loft isn't going to be as visual to your face, is it? Why Scotty Scheffler using this driver with this different facing? Because he wants to see the loft, but play the loft at less loft, but see the loft. So what do? You make a putter that is the driver that's the polar opposite of green. That's why red putters are what they are, because on that there's a circle chart, isn't there? Photographers will know it. And the polar opposite of green on the circle chart is red. The highest contrast. That's why they do it. So when you pop black against green, then the loft, you can't see too much of it. But when you do a white face, then you can see a lot of it. So it's all like little tricks and nuances. Like putting fitting is very like finicky. But if you as a rep are deep in the player's grill and you're showing them that you're really keeping an eye on it, and Lloyd's pulled out just for the week putting here, how I would break it down. I know he didn't put good on one of the days, but he didn't hit it strokes gained approach very good. So he had a lot of pace putts. So my conversation with Brooks would be like, listen, mate, you day one, I think it was, you hit it 400 miles away from every hole. So, you know, you've got a new putter, pace putting on quick greens with a putter you're not used to, that's got insert, that's got grooves, so it's going to roll better than what you play. Like, that's maybe an anomaly we can't look at. And then I'd get the average of the other two, and then I'd be trying to find the silver lining to keep that thing in play, or what I'd have to do to change it. Now, if I got there to the next tournament, I doubt he'll play Pebble. But if I got to the next one and he pushed me away, Brooks Koepka probably wouldn't interfere with. But I get on pretty. I like his caddy was an Irish guy, so there's that European connection. So I'd probably hang around a bit and then, you know, try and get it. Like that would be my way in. You know what I mean? So we got round one here. Strokes gained approach, lost 0.7. Strokes gained putting, lost 3.6. So if his average strokes gained putting for the round was 3.6, he must have gained a little bit somewhere. So he's got to give me another round here, round two. Strokes gained putting, 0.2. So he actually putted better in round two, I think that reads. But you get what I'm saying. You're trying to find the silver lining to show to the player this is what you do. Now, the issue comes, I think, and this is what I will hand over to you boys, and I think it's really difficult. Brooks is obviously struggling. He's used a blade putter since Darryl had hair, and now he's in a mallet. So you're up against it to try and convince this lad to stay in the mallet. Where golf is hard, and I'll flip it to one of you boys, is you pretty much are always trying to go against what is someone's vibe, and statistically, performance-wise, what is better? So, for example, and we can use it for the Rory example, if Rory likes going to go and play in the Middle East, but statistically knows on his body and the golf course suits him better if he goes to Phoenix, but he likes it, which is right and which is wrong? And you could then relate that to mallets versus blades. Jumbo Max grips now are a hot thing. Jumbo Max grips versus skinny grips. Heavy swing weights versus light swing weights. And by the way, I've found a new driver. That's another topic. We'll get on that. Oh, this thing's a cannon. It's a cannon for the Trotster. I'm back to like mini cannons, not Bub's cannons, mini cannons. But you get what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how you... I really find that hard. And the older the players get, like Rosie, you know, Justin, he really tries things, but he's so disciplined. And you've got Jason Day now, Jumbo Max grips, Rosie claw grip on a putter. Like, the stories behind how these boys got to these things, I think, is magical. And Brooks is now like, he's trying mallet putters. That's how you know how horny I am about golf equipment. It's magical.
Well, staying on your magical thread question then, if you're, say, someone like a Rory and some of those other elite level names you've already mentioned, and they are statistically trying to analyze and understand their game in order to perform at Augusta, how do they prepare their thoughts around putting and finding the right putter in preparation for Augusta greens, which are clearly notoriously different to a lot of other golf courses? So how do they plan and prepare for that weeks and weeks in advance, or do they not?
I heard through the Tiger TaylorMade Ardmore situation. Remember he put that mallet in with a little half moon. He spot. I got chatting on that and talking, and it was through one of the side crew, but he's got multiple different surfaces that he practices his putting on. And the place where he found a chink in his armor was on certain grain. So that Ardmore went in for the grain. And he has these different putting surfaces that he tries. And so in answer to your question about Augusta, I think it comes back again to your greens in Phoenix. They're not, I mean, it's so hard to find greens as pure as that bent grass as you get over to that side of the country. But yeah, these guys definitely get into, like, Jason Day wouldn't be changing the loft of his putter the week before Augusta. He wouldn't play if the greens weren't anywhere near what he wanted. And I think that was when the Shell tournament used to go in. They used to go to Houston, didn't they, before Augusta? And it was intentionally set up to be like Augusta around the greens and stuff. So I think, again, it comes back to players setting schedule, not wanting to change. They go off and practice slope lies for a ton of time. I'm sure I told this story before on the podcast, but Rosie struggles with allergies. He gets on the local honey like 8-12 weeks out in advance of Augusta, puts it in everything. Honey in his tea, honey in his water, honey on his toast, just to get himself in the game. Again, it's statistics. It's like, think about Lindsey Vonn again. How long is she staying in Cortina prior to competing? Well, she's in the mountains 3-4 weeks in advance, and then she's probably in Cortina a good week and a bit in advance.
I mean, when I look at certainly the best in golf, and I'm talking probably Tiger and Scotty, you mentioned schedules and leading up to the Masters, and do you play Phoenix, do you play Dubai, wherever it is. I think you can sort of look at that in different aspects. So if you look at someone like a Scotty, what he does when he gets to the golf course is going to be pretty much the same every round of golf he plays. Whether he goes putting green, chipping green, hit balls, or whether he hits balls, putting green, chipping green, or whatever it may be, he's going to be there.
What about if he goes to jail first?
Well, then it all goes out the window, doesn't it? But when you look at these elite players, I guess one of the things that I guess they try and do is figure out what works for them when they get to a tournament. And they just do that and they roll it out every single time they play. One stump that. Yeah. And then, but then you also look at that across the season. And for as long as I can remember, Tiger didn't really change his schedule. You look at Scotty. Scotty's played Phoenix every year. And I just think that the best players seem to hone in on what works for them quicker, and they just stick to it. And I'm not obviously criticizing Rory, but over the years, I feel like Rory's looked in the preparation to try and get that Masters win. He's tried to play different tournaments. He's tried to change his schedule leading up to it. He's tried to practice different places. And I don't see that in the best. I see Tiger, I see Scotty going, this is what I'm going to do. And almost thinking the longer I do this, the more it's going to be suited to me. And I just worry that Rory dotted around, tried different things, tried to find the answer in his schedule as opposed to saying, I just need to find out what works for me.
But Bubsy, he hadn't won it. So
no, I know, but
mate, also he's running out of time.
I think he would have won it if he'd have gone, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to play these events and I'm going to work me into the Masters. But he changed. He played before, then he didn't play, then he played before, then he went to a Masters a week before, then he went 2 weeks before. And it just felt to me like he was searching for the answer in the wrong place.
Okay, let's flip this question then. Does Jordan Spieth win the PGA Championship before his career's done?
No.
Does Brooks Koepka win another major?
Yes.
More likely to say yes for Brooks.
So why?
Because I think from look, this is the outside looking in. I don't know Jordan. I know he's been working with the same coach, but I think he's got to a point now where he's meddled a little bit. It's maybe not the right word, but he's sort of, I guess he's a little bit like where you are with your goal swing. He's tweaked and changed and searched in his goal swing. And I think he's lost the ability to go back to where he was. I think the point that he was when he looked like he was going to eclipse Tiger's record and Jack's record, and who's been spoken about as the next Jack and the next Tiger, I don't think he can ever get back to that place now. I think he might win again. He might have some spells, but he just looks like he is in a different place. And I think even if he started to swing it as good as he did, I don't think he's got the mental strength to say, I can really trust this on the hardest stage when the pressure's on. I think he's gone too far down a road that he can't get back from now.
Mike, we've got major problems here. Does Trotty ever win a club championship again? So you're telling me I've gone too far? It's not recoverable. I'm Jordan Spieth of amateur golf.
No, but everybody listening to this podcast can relate in some way to that. They played their best golf. It felt easy. Everything felt like it was aligned. Then you kind of make a swing change. Then you do something else. Then you change your putter. Then you do something with your chipping. And you just think,
answering the question,
how do I get back to... I don't know who you're playing against. Depends
you might win a club championship, but I'm not so sure about the Midland Masters. I think you might be out of the running there, lad.
Let me just say, though, right, the inspiration, and I think just to flip this, like we've had Lloyd break down a few of the stats on strokes gained putting, which is great. So it shows where my thinking would go with elite players and equipment. Justin Rose is 45. He's hitting it. I think he hit it 55 yards past Joel Damon, in the longest, but cracking bloke, great player, great personality, down the first at Torrey. Jason Day has got 768 children, and he's using jumbo grips, changed his golf swing based on like injuries, now got a YouTube channel. Lindsey Vonn is 41 and coming back to compete in the Olympics. There is a second peak. And I think that you have, like Justin's been technical his whole life, mate.
Yes, but if you look at someone like Jason Day, to my knowledge, has made one significant swing change. And, we could speak to him about it, but I believe that was along the lines of maybe preserving his career a bit longer, maybe preventing injury because he was swinging in a way which put a lot of pressure on his lower back. So I look at him and say, okay, you've had a huge amount of success with a certain swing, you got a major under your belt, and then he would have made all the necessary inquiries, speaking to the right people to say, look, I'm going to make a swing change. He went in there, he did it the right way, he's out the other side and he's playing great golf. I don't see that with Jordan. I might be wrong, but with Jordan, it looks like he's got multiple different practice swings over the last 5 to 6 years, loads of different quirky moves and feels, and he just looks as if he's kind of lost his way. So to me, it looks as if Jason Day made a conscious effort to change his golf swing to preserve his career. Jordan looks like he's searching for the answer in his golf swing, and I think it's two different things. Look, it's only an observation from outside looking in. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what the conversations are, but Jason Day looks as if he did it in the right way.
Well, I think if you look back to Spieth's statistics, I'm pretty sure I'm generalizing strongly here, but when he was in his proper prime, sort of that top 3 in the world consistently for that period of time, his stats and his data was very heavily weighted towards the strength of his short game. So good putter, great short game at the time. And, if he had a bad day on the greens, it would basically lead to a bad result in the tournament for him, which at that time he didn't do very often because he was so successfully strong short game wise. As he gets older, I can totally understand why he would have tried to strengthen his long game based on that, because you want to try and create a bit more balance from the long game to the short game and to create more longevity, right? Whereas I think in the likes of Jason Day, Brooks Koepka, Justin Rose, these guys have really strong long games, which means they can afford to still have a relatively weakish time on the greens and still be able to finish in the top 10 at whatever tournaments it might be. So that's why I feel more confident in someone like a Brooks going on to win another major versus Spieth. But to Trotty's point, a second win is not impossible. One great week. Jordan Spieth's had a great career at Augusta, for example. Might he win one more tournament the rest of his career and it's another Augusta? Maybe. Who knows? Will it be the PGA Championship? That's a very specific call out. I would say that's less likely versus Brooks Koepka winning any of the 4 majors, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of the golf over the weekend. I thought it was a good tournament. I think the crowds made it more interesting to watch because you could kind of hear them in the background. It just gave it an extra kind of dimension. But I watched Spieth a little bit, and there was a point, and look, this has been said for years now, but people, the commentators, the announcers say Spieth's great to watch because you don't know what you're going to get. I find it the opposite. I find it difficult to watch because I watch a guy who was an absolute baller, looked like he was going to go and win double figures majors. And it's a difficult watch. He doesn't have control of his golf ball. He's leaking it right with his driver one hole. He's turning a 3-wood over the next hole. I find it as a coach, I find it difficult to watch. This guy who I watched a few years ago, who had it on a bit of string, rolling everything in on the greens, it looked like, clutch moments in big majors. And I just see someone who's really struggling. And it's a difficult watch for me because he's a great player. And I love to watch him when he's playing well, but he's just not got control over his golf ball. And when you look at the best of the best, they have predictive curve, predictive trajectory. They know what the miss is going to be. And I don't think he's in that camp at the moment.
So that leads me to then think about talking, I want to stay on the subject of golf swings here. Chris Goddard obviously wins over the weekend. Great result, unorthodox backswing. How is a player like that, in your opinion, Bubs? How is he so in control of that golf ball? Compared to someone where Spieth is at this time, not when he was in his prime, but right now?
Well, I need to start by saying that I feel a little bit of connection to Chris because Raise your hand if you get it a little bit long, a little bit across the line, a little bit cupped in the lead wrist. Me and Chris got her up. We've got a lot in common. I mean, he aims 40 yards left and still starts his thing right at target and slings it back in. So I can relate to that a little bit. But I think, I mean, look, he hasn't got an orthodox swing. He doesn't even do his glove up, for Christ's sake. He just leaves his glove kind of half undone. But yeah, I mean, he aims super far left with most things. He gets it long across the line, steep in the early downswing, shallows it late, and sends this thing way right at target and turns it back in. So it's not something you would coach. But I think, you know, you look at golf coaching over the years, and we've touched on this a little bit in a podcast before, but before launch monitors and there was slow motion videos, poor coaches were coaching golf swing, right? They were throwing golf swings up alongside Nick Faldo against Tiger Woods and saying to whoever they're coaching, look, you don't look like this. We need to move you in there. And they were almost trying to coach these perfect golf swings. And then I don't think that was healthy for the game. Then we started to get the introduction of launch monitors, which gave us for the first time a real insight as to what's happening at impact. And I think Chris Gotterup is a result of that, because pre-launch monitors, I don't know who went to see as a coach, could have easily looked at his golf swing and gone in there and tried to change it. You know, moved it to basically more Matsuyama, you know, a little bit more laid off, a little bit shallower earlier. But with the introduction of launch monitors, there's a better chance of a coach leaving that alone and looking at the impact and saying, do you know what? You're producing a pretty functional impact here. So let's maybe look at what needs to change in the impact to get you to play a little better. Maybe it is, you know, changing the attack angle. Maybe it's making sure the path isn't too far right, but making a few tweaks in there and just letting the natural talent that this player's got just shine through. So I do think that players like him have made it thanks to better technology. I don't think the interventions are happening as often as they might have done before that. But I think what I want to say is a little bit on kind of backswings, and he hasn't got a conventional backswing, but we're looking at, when we watch the PGA Tour, the top, I don't know, 0.4% of golfers on the planet, right? They're so talented. And I hear people say, I get this all the time on content and videos, anything that's a backswing video, it's all about impact. Doesn't matter what the backswing's like, it's all about impact. The majority of golfers that I coach, the majority of golfers that are listening to this who are recreational golfers, backswing matters. If you put them in the same position that Chris Gotterup is in, they would just hit it all over the place if they could strike it at all. So I think when you look at the best of the best, they're so talented, they're so skilled, they can get away with a less than ideal backswing. They can overcome a cupped wrist. They can overcome a steep downswing. They can overcome an open face. Most golfers can't. So I think when you look at the best in the world, it's easier to leave an unconventional backswing alone. In my experience, when I'm coaching amateurs who are playing once a week, maybe not practicing, you have to change impact if you want to change the ball flight. Which is easier to change, backswing or downswing? Generally, backswing is easier to change because it's lower speed, there's less forces involved. So for the majority of golfers that I coach, changing backswing in the knowledge that will change impact and it's done in the right way is the easiest way to get better. Whereas changing backswing gets such a bad rep because all these people out there watch some videos and listen to pros. They'll be like, no, leave backswing alone. It's all about impact. Yeah, I know it's about impact. But the easiest way for you to change your impact is to put yourself in a better position at the top of the backswing. It's easier to change, it's easier to fix, and you will get the results you want. So I just think when you look at the amateur game and you look at the pros, you're basically dealing with two different athletes, and you have to respect that.
Interesting. This, as a follow-on question, which I suppose it is directly linked, and I actually forgot to write down who sent this through. But I had a message come through about what we want to talk about on the show. And this person said, why should I have a golf lesson if all the swing tips are already online? So based on what you're saying, and you know what people say, yeah, don't change the backswing, change the impact position. Like, how are you going to answer that question?
I think the more content that is online now, whatever you pick, whatever social platform you want, there's great stuff out there. And I think generally speaking, the golfers out there have probably a better understanding of the golf swing. But in my experience, they isolate positions. So they'll be able to look at a backswing and they'll be able to say that's across the line, or that's laid off, or that guy's arms are too low, or that girl's arms are too high, or that downswing's over the top, or that's downswing steep. They can kind of pull out these faults. But the key to coaching is knowing that if you were to change the top of the backswing, what is the most likely outcome and impact? And you have to say most likely because you can't say 100% certainty what's going to happen because you're dealing with a golfer who might react to a different position that you can't foresee. But the key to coaching is understanding that if I change the takeaway, if I get the club head maybe a little bit more inside the hands, what the knock-on effects are going to be throughout the golf swing. If the club head gets a little bit more inside the hands, there's a better chance that it's going to get a little bit more across the line at the top. That golfer might then have a better chance of shallowing it. They might then have a better chance of moving the path out right. If that's what the golfer needs, great. So it's the good coaches have a real deep understanding about this change is going to affect that at impact. And I don't think you can get that from watching videos online. You might be able to appreciate what is a steep swing, appreciate what is a shallow swing, appreciate what is a aesthetically good top of the backswing, but they're possibly not as good at knowing in their own golf swing what needs to change. Because if most people could get a slow motion video of their golf swing and put it up against, say, Justin Rose, we're talking about him, it's not that difficult for them to make a list of what they do differently to Justin Rose. It might be a list of 10 things, but they've got no idea which ones to leave alone and which ones to make a change to. That's where the skill of the coach comes in, is the coach can say, and I've said this numerous times, your takeaways on the inside, you do not need to worry about that. Leave it alone. Do not give it another thought again. What we do need to change is X, Y, Z. And if we change X, Y, Z, that's going to likely change your delivery. It's going to cause you to be steeper. Your path's going to be better. And it's that connection that a golf pro can have that amateurs often don't.
It's a big thing. I think that's a fair point. I think if you look at Gotterup, he swings it a little bit like, I was looking at his leg action. It's a bit daily-ish, to be honest with you. Like, gets plenty of hip turn. And I think any players that get plenty of hip turn usually are committed to hitting it. And he's a strong boy. I think the other thing is, linking this to earlier conversations, he's got no history. He's young. He's on the way up still. You look at Spiethy, you telling me he doesn't wake up in the middle of the night thinking about hole 12 at Augusta and then let Danny Willett take that from him? I mean, that's got to be when you wake up and you're standing in that drop zone. I mean, that's got to be crushing. And I think there's an element of that when you look at Rory, I think he's woken up a few times wearing that Oakley shirt and snap hooking one down 10 at Augusta, and it's the mental fortitude to get through that. Now, Rosie's the same. Rosie's woken up probably several times, missing that short putt on 17 against Rory. It's the mental fortitude that brings these guys to make them who they are. Brooks is going through a downturn. Every great player has gone through it. Westwood, Langer, you go back in time, they've all gone through these things. The miscut putt in 91 for Bernard Langer came back, fortitude, So, yeah, Trotty's at the dizzy heights of the Midland Masters, but you know what? He's going to come back, Bubsy. But the point I'm trying to make is, in all these things, is I think Gotterup has that power move, that pull it inside, get the hip turn. I think you're spot on with what you say about the coach. I think just to add on the online coaching piece, I think I'm a perfect example of it. I think Martin Keimer's an example of it. You can just get lost in just rabbit holes of stuff that you don't need to do. I think a question I would have is, if you have a product that is a data product, not mention any names this week, you guys who listen to this know I love data, does the data product not reveal what you need to work on? Going one step further.
I mean, that's where if someone really wants to get better, like truly wants to get better, bearing in mind we've all got a limited amount of time to practice and play, you've got to start by looking at where do I need to start? But the reality is, and like this is a whole different tangent, but the reality is people want to do what they want to do, right? Most people who come for a lesson with me and say, I want to work on driver, if I said to them, let's start again. If they come and said, look, I'm a 15 handicap, I want to get down to 12, and they've booked a lesson, right? And they go, I'm 15, I want to get down to 12. If I was to say to them, look, I've looked at your stats, we're going to go on the putting green, because that's where you're dropping your shots. I guarantee they go, yeah, but you just have a look at my swing. Like, they just want to do what they want to do. They want to hit it better because they want to feel that strike. You know, you said in a previous podcast, people have never struck the ball well, and that's what they're after. But I think when you look at golfers improving, the question that I would, or the advice that I would give them, and you can hold this throughout your career, whatever you're changing your golf swing, whether it's some advice from me, whether it's some advice from a playing partner, whether it's something they've seen online, if it's, okay, I want to get the shaft a little bit more vertical halfway back, or I want to get the shaft a little bit flatter halfway back, or I want to get the wrist a bit flatter. The question they have to ask themselves is, if I do that, what will it do to impact? And if you can't answer that question, don't do it until you can get that answer. Because the number of times I've coached someone and I'm saying, right, talk me through what you're doing. Well, I get this as a takeaway. I'm trying to work it a bit here, and I get the club a little bit inside. I'm trying to get a bit steeper. Right. And what is that going to do to your impact? No idea, but I just know I take it on the inside. It's aesthetic changes. Aesthetic changes don't get you anywhere. It's got to relate to impact. And that is where the beauty of a full swing kit, the launch motor, comes in, because I can coach now and I can say to this person, this is what you're doing at impact. That's not functional. If we make this change, and they make that change, and I go, look, now the data is changing. It's not fixed. You're not out the back end yet, and you can go and play and make that goal swing. But we're making that connection of this data needs to change. This tweak in your technique has changed that data. Now we know we're on the right track. Now you've got to go and practice. Now you've got to do the drills. But if you can't make the connection between the swing and change and impact and ball flight and what it's going to do for you, don't do it.
And this is, I mean, that in its sense there, in its complete entirety, is I think what people need to do with equipment. And I get so hacked off with the comments that I get on YouTube. Oh, the new driver, you said this last year. Listen, mate, go out and spend your $700 or $900 on your driver. Honestly, I don't have skin in the game. The truth is, what I want you to do is I want you to look at your data, because this driver, if your data says that your QI10, Scotty Scheffler, is absolutely Stripe City, tough one, isn't it? Tough one. And that's his strength. But is it Stripe City, or are you just completely like, what's your data? Because the Phil Mickelson stuff, I saw this thing last night. Again, I won't mention the product. I will mention the product, screw it. It was Decade. And I was looking at my own strokes game putting, played yesterday, didn't putt very good. So I started looking at, he's got loads of these drills in his product. It's really good. Started looking at the putting stuff. And there was an interview with Phil. It was in his archive. And Mickelson's like, I'm feeling confident from 3 feet. So basically, all my 20-footers, I just ram 3 feet by. And then Scott Fawcett pauses it. And he's like, right, hold on a minute. Let's see if that's true. And he takes Phil's tournament and he looks at Phil's putts from every single distance bracket. So 0 to 5 feet. A lot of them are tap-ins, he explains. 6 feet to 10 feet, 11. You get where I'm going with this. And then basically he says, right, now let's do the pace chart. He said, because I can go on the PJ Tour, shot link, I can show you this. Phil was like, from 20 feet for the week, I think he hit one putt that was outside of 3 feet. And his make percentage from 0 to 5 feet was 99% for the week. So he's like, and there were a lot of putts that were a foot short. So he's like, so Phil's comment is actually wrong. Now, if you've got people like Phil giving generalization comments like that, then how do you think I feel when someone says to me casually, oh, driver's no good? Or they comment on YouTube, yeah, driver sucks. Guys, like, and I touched on it earlier, and I just want to put a bow on my comment I said earlier. So swing-wise, because I think equipment can interfere / influence is the word I was looking for, how you swing it. Not been swinging it great. Back up, flip. That's my golf swing. So how do you fix that? With a club. You get a lofted driver, you go no tee, and you just hit it with no tee driver off the deck. 10.5 driver. And then what happens is if you back up, you'll hit the earth. You'll hit the ground. So you can't do it. So all of a sudden you start keeping in your pivot, you stay on it, and you turn and you rotate, and you hit low drivers out there that launch at 9, spin at 3,000, go 15, 10% shorter than what you hit it. You do that for 6-7 weeks. I did that. Now what I'm doing is, there's a button for put your hand up, Chris. Now what you do is I've gone less loft, deeper CG, off a peg. I've gained yardage again. Because I think, to add to what you said, not to disagree, because now you've used this app we're using the right way and you put your hand up, I think equipment can influence the way you swing the golf club. And I'm big on that in 2026. I've been big on that my whole career, but that's the little rabbit hole I'm getting down. And I will add at this point, I've got a very important meeting this morning with some equipment people. We're at 50 minutes. Let's keep the next 10 minutes to the next 10 minutes, please, gentlemen. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh, I'll let Dazza speak in a minute. But I just want to say on what you touched on there, I 100% agree with you for some golfers. Right? You know what a good impact feels like, right? You've created good impacts. You know what a good ball flight looks like. So if you are, as you say, a little bit under, a little bit flippy, you do exactly what you said you were going to do. You actually did it when we played Orlando. You basically throw the ball on the ground because you know that your golf swing will evolve around that environment that you've created. So you know that ball sitting on the ground is going to cause you to be less underneath. It's going to cause you to flip it less. It's going to help you, right? When you look at the less talented golfers who are playing once a week, happy hamburgers, they don't have that inbuilt ability. So if I give a golfer a driver and they slice it out right, they don't suddenly learn how to release it correctly. They just go and keep slicing it. So you've got to have a little bit of understanding about what you're trying to achieve, which is why environment, I think, helps better players more than it helps amateurs. With amateurs, you have to intervene with swing techniques. I can give a golfer a driver which is 5 degrees open at setup, and they'll just slice it for the next 5 years. Whereas if I gave you that driver, Daryl, or you that driver, Trotty, you develop a different release to try and create the impact that you want because you know what you're looking for. Most amateurs don't know what they're looking for, so they just continue on down their route. What they might do is they might try and swipe across it more. They might try and back up with it. They get there in the wrong way. So I think what you're saying is 100% true, but it has to be for someone who's got some sort of ability, someone who's got some sort of awareness as to what a good shot looks and feels like.
And that sentence there, what does a good shot look and feel like, is something I heard off of a coach. He's still around, Alan Thompson, great guy, like Wirral legend. Still alive, absolute beautiful man. That was something I heard off of him when I was like 15. Thought I was a good player. And he's like, you don't know what a good shot feels like. You don't know what a good shot looks like. Took it as offense. Much like your comment earlier, Trotty's never going to win a club championship again. Took it as offense. But then you've redeemed yourself a little bit and said, well, you know what a good shot looks like. You know what? I do. I'm not going to go out here and say I'll win one again, but I'm going to give it a damn good go. But the point I'm trying to make here is that is why fitting exists. It's why the last video I put up on my own YouTube channel exists. And you have to title it in the BS YouTube game, "You Can't Slice This Driver," and then hope that people click on this thing and actually learn, because the tailor-made QI4D Max, all that happens is that thing doesn't want to slice. So characters come into your fitting centers, which I know the three of us did tons of back in the early 2000s, and you set them up with a hooded claw and a senior flex shaft. You let them hit one. It doesn't move left to right. And then you smack them on the arse and you send them on their way. And that's basically what 98% of your fitting was. And that's where we were then. But now you overstep the mark and you go, before I smack you on your arse and send you on your way, I'm going to give you a few little pointers, thanks to this launch monitor that stood here. And I'm going to help you out. If you adjust these things, you'll actually become a better player. And then don't come back to me in a year telling me that you're still slicing it, because what we'll do then, son, we'll get into your data and then we all win. You know what I mean? That's basically the evolution of club fitting and teaching in a nutshell throughout our careers. The only shit point about this is that we've been the guinea pigs in our generation for this. That's the hard part. PGA show example. I didn't do it so much this year, but I know what I'm saying is the experience you boys had. Booth to booth. The Bluetooth in the air is going off the charts. You can't even connect to your freaking wireless headphones if you've got them, because everyone's got the latest tech, the latest. We're the guinea pigs. And nowadays, you get the 16-year-old kid out, and he can tell you what his face to path is because he's been practicing a goddamn launch monitor for the last 5 years. Is what it is.
Is what it is. Well, to close out this podcast with our last real segment I want to cover, so going from the Midland Masters to the actual Masters to the Qatar Masters.
Great golf course.
Let's cover Patrick Reed for a minute
Legend.
here. I mean,
Absolute legend.
The guy is on fire. right now on the European Tour. In fact, I was having a little look at this yesterday, but if he doesn't play any more tournaments for the rest of the year, and basing how many points he's already got from the 4 tournaments he's played this year, he will finish 17th in the order of merit, which will get him a PGA Tour card for the following year.
Wow.
So, and that's if he plays no more golf on, which obviously he's up to 17 in the world now. So he's playing all 4 majors, regardless as to, grant, whatever the exemption status might be, he's right in the mix of all of that. So I have to admit, I don't know Patrick Reed. I've met him twice, I would say, maybe 3 times, but definitely twice that I can recall. And I remember going, gee, what a nice bloke. Really
100%.
Nice guy.
100%.
And what I liked about him is how much interest he showed in other people around him. Yeah. He would always ask a question. Like he was literally absorbing his environment. It was a good time. But I do think from a golf ability perspective, this guy, I just think he knows every inch of his game, and he's very good at getting every inch out of his game. But I think the psychology and the mental side of what he's able to do is phenomenal. To go over the last few years he's had to go through in terms of, PGA Tour, Live, now European Tour, now earning his way back into the PGA Tour. I mean, I'm taking my hat off there. I think what an amazing achievement to date. And I kind of want to really applaud that. But I'm really keen to get your thoughts.
Do it. Now I want an applause. Do it. And I might make you take your hat off.
Applause. There's the applause. My hat's off. You can see the little ring on the cap. Lovely jubbly.
Listen, I want to wholeheartedly agree with you and back. And I'll do my best to not agree with you on everything in life.
Take your hat off. I'm doing applause.
Patrick Reed is an absolute freaking golfing legend. And you know what? Nicest bloke you'll ever meet. And I'm here for it. Having spent a little bit of time with him, quite a bit of time with his former coach, Kevin Kirk. That team and him and Kessler, the caddy, I've never met his missus, but must be like equal, like they're a team. Proper diamond bloke. Now, if you approach him at the wrong time and you get into an area where you're like, this ain't going to work because he's a freaking pro, just like if you walk up to Lindsey Vonn before she's going to hit that downhill slope, I don't think you're going to get the best interaction with Lindsey Vonn. But if you catch him at the right times and you have a conversation and you're a top man about it and he's a top man about it, you can ask him anything you want. And there's a bloke who, for me, is just an out-and-out baller. And he would make, and we'll do this on one of the shows, he'd make my all-time Ryder Cup team. We should definitely do that. An all-time Ryder Cup team. And he's in it. 100%.
Let me ask you this question then, because I saw this. I can't remember the account, but it was a big account on social media. Not like a person, like a
Trotty Golf
brand. No, it wasn't Trotty Golf. Because I think I'm with you. I think P. Reed, legend, and he's basically had to play the villain for the last 20 years. Like he's taken
P. Reed, the Peeper's mates with him. P. Reed,
yeah, let's go.
But this tweet, and I need to remember who it was, but they said the tweet they put out was, I mean, basically he came third in last week's event, but he was in a playoff. So for 3 consecutive tournaments, no one's shot lower than him over 4 rounds. But this tweet said, Patrick Reed has gone win, basically tied for the lead win. This just shows how weak the European Tour has become. Do you agree with that? Or does it show just how good Patrick Reed has become? They were basically saying that because the top 10 go to PGA Tour, the fact that he's won basically 3 in a row shows how incredibly poor the standard is. Are you seeing that?
I think if you look at the scores, the way they set the score, the courses up, he has golfed his ball for sure. I do think that the tour, as in the European Tour, is weaker, but I still think there's a really strong level of golf at the top of the leaderboards generally. But I would say that the European Tour is weaker, but there's no question you've got to beat what's in front of you, and Patrick Reed has done that. So I would say it's a bit of both.
I think I'd want to deep dive into the field a little bit more, which I'm not in a place to do right now. And the other thing I would say, I'd then want to look at, which is hard to do with Dubai because the course has changed so much over time. But I just want to hold the phone a little bit and be like, hang on a minute. These guys are independent contractors. They go wherever they want to go in the world. Patrick Reed has chosen to take his brand on the road globally and loves to play golf. He takes his game to Valderrama. He goes to the desert. He comes back and plays in the US. Then he's in Asia. I just think deserves a spot on the all-time Ryder Cup team based on those things alone. Look at the bands that get on the road and go and do this stuff and play in the UK and then Asia and then Rio. It's like, it's the same thing. I don't think you can stand here and throw out comments like that, and they're made from people who don't know. There was an influencer or some guy who's a streamer who gave someone $100 to shout like Happy Gilmore jackass at the Phoenix thing. Yeah. And then he's getting time on social media saying that was a terrible. And, now I can't go to PGA Tour events. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm showing my age. But at some point, dude, these people are doing it. Now, it's not risking their life like Lindsey Vonn. And I love Lindsey Vonn. This is the Lindsey Vonn podcast for me. But I would hate it if someone was at the start gate saying to Lindsey Vonn, watch the turn down there. What are you guys doing? Just get out the way and marvel at the brilliance. Now, I do know that Phoenix isn't that. And if you're a tour player and you play that event, you want that hype. You're asking for it. But you got to do what someone like a Fitzpatrick did then when he went to New York. His parents didn't even go to the Ryder Cup because they didn't want to see their son and listen to the abuse that was taking place there on Long Island. Is that right? No. But on the same note, it makes for a fantastic tournament and a great arena. And maybe all that's for another podcast. But the streamer guy, I think, was probably in the wrong. You know what I mean? And it's like, I get it. Don't be so stiff. But there is a bit of tradition with this game as well. And that's what makes the game brilliant.
No, I don't think you're in the wrong. I think what he did was completely wrong. I also think that when you've got that event, and it is a big event. There's a lot of eyeballs on it. People know it for what it is. It's obviously the 16th hole, all the fans. When you build an event like that, whilst you don't want it, you kind of have to accept that there's going to be stuff that happens off the back of that you don't really want. But I think as a business decision, you go, do you know what? We'll go with it because we get a lot more positives than we do negatives. But I just think when you get those events and they build it up like that and there's alcohol involved, you're just going to get some stuff that you don't really want. But it's probably the good probably outweighs the bad, I think.
Just one thing about the strength of field, by the way, just having a very quick scan, but just to give you an example. And I'm going Qatar Masters from last week to the Qatar Masters from 2016, so 10 years ago. Last week's event, there were 3 players inside the top 100 of the world rankings that played.
Is that
10 years ago, there was 21.
Jesus.
Just to give you a bit of a steer on how it's changed. Now, granted, there is a caveat here. The caveat being that the world ranking point system has changed anyway. So that was always going to be a bit more of a negative effect against the 10 years ago ultimately. But then you start to then look at Live Golf now also being awarded world ranking points. Your first place finish on Live will earn you more points than a first place finish in the European Tour event.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Golf's in a freaking messed up place. I mean, it's a messed up game. It is in a funny place. It's a messed up game, and it's in a messed up place right now. And again, sadly, lads, we're the guinea pigs living through this.
They'll be giving world ranking points for this club championship that Trotty's playing in soon.
I'll take them.
I want to play in the Midland Masters Pro-Am. That's what I want to do. I want to be one of the AM partners for Trotty.
What was that called?
Anyway,
just keep me underneath Kettleston Park. Keep me underneath the limelight. Keep me underneath the radar.
You knew the rules, though, didn't you, lad?
Just don't count me out. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Just don't count your boy out. Just don't count your boy out. Didn't you? You knew the rules.
I'm going to hit a wedge, and I'm going to hit it hard.
You knew the rules. Just don't count the boy out. That's all I'm saying.
Anyway, let's start closing out this podcast. Bubs, tell us a few questions that you've been asked on Instagram, and let's round everything out from here.
Oh, hang on. I've got to find them now. Hang on. They're on my home screen.
I've got a Mickey Fox this situation, boys.
Have you? Yeah. Come in.
All right.
Just do me job.
I know you got to go. I'm going to throw at you a really deep question that won't take more than about 20 minutes to answer. Opinion on same length irons for the masses.
Great question.
Come on, mate, take that one.
Great question. I was chatting to someone at the PGA show deep about this, And there's a halfway house, isn't there? You can do 2 length set. So you can have your short irons at a certain length and your longs at a certain length. I think Jason Day might be doing it. Basically, for the masses, but got to remember where I've come from doing this, growing up through the generation I've grown up through. I don't like single length clubs. I would try it. I wouldn't buy them, but I would try it. And I would be more inclined to try the combo length clubs because I hit my short irons pretty good. I pull them though. So like I'm going flatter and flatter and flatter in an attempt to get rid of that, heavier in the shafts in an attempt to get rid of that, wider in the grips in an attempt to get rid of that. So I definitely try a combo length. And there's there's that 9-iron for me is always my favorite length golf club, or the 8. And I'm like, that's good. But then obviously you want a bit more out of the other ones, and I wouldn't want to be as steep with the 4 and the 5. So I don't hate it, but I would spend a lot of time demoing it. And I probably, in the sake of someone having to spend a lot of money on golf clubs, I'd probably sort of ease away from the single length, and I might look at the combo length to give you the short answer.
Okay. Do you want to go to the other one, or have you got to shoot?
I mean, I've got a Mickey Fox this situation, but I mean, if the other two aren't anything to do with me.
Let's do one more and then we'll wrap up.
Have you got one then, Dazza, or not? Do you want me to go?
No, I said my one earlier, actually. In the
okay. So sticking on the same sort of theme in clubs, this is Connor Roy TM. I don't know if he works for TaylorMade, but his name
Connor
is
Bradley.
Connor Roy TM. He's put, I'll kind of paraphrase here, but he's basically put, with iron face technologies becoming faster, I'm guessing he's talking kind of speed slots and distance across the face. Do you think that we're going to see lofts go more traditional again?
No,
why would we? It's
the better player doesn't like a speed pocket. So speed pockets have got a long way to come for higher ball speeds. Let's start there. A speed pocket is great, and it's a little cut in the underside of the club that gives you more COR, which is spring effect, from lowering the blade. And I think 70% of the shots are hit lower than the center in a golf iron. I think people think, oh, you hit everything in the center. No, you don't. You hit it slightly lower in the blade. So on an off-center strike, where these things are great, is they give you the same yardage, ball speed, distance, and they get you to the front edge, where basically the amateurs miss, often of them short of the green. So a speed pocket for the amateur gets them to the front of the green because they underclub on everything. Again, comes back to what we said in the podcast. You need a launch monitor to show truly how far you hit it. I think that speed pockets then have given engineers the opportunity to change the center of gravity. Most amateur golfers back up, help the golf ball in the air. So the loft is made stronger to get rid of that effect of helping the ball in the air. So rather than get lessons, amateurs turn to equipment to help them. A speed pocket enables the center of gravity to go into a different place, which then you can take less loft. So your 6-iron becomes your 5-iron, which then gives you a launch window that should be your 5-iron and a spin rate that should be your 5-iron. Now, what this question is saying is, do you think with the speed pocket, we're going to refine it to the point where you can now weaken and get back to where normal lofts are? Well, the truth is, Mr. Trademark, that if you buy a set of CB irons or MB irons, so let's just cover general across all brands, a solid set of cavity backs that are for better players or a solid set of blades that are for elite players, then those clubs will come out generally with 6-iron. Let's keep that club being traditional 6-iron loft, which might be 31 on tour when I started, might be 30 today, depending on how someone likes to see the offset, which is how the blade sits in relation to the hosel. So you must remember it's a double-edged sword. One is launch angle that player is getting. So the elite or good player can launch that 6-iron at half the loft on the blade. Let's say it's 31, 15.5. That in turn, based on the center of gravity location, gives them a spin rate for the cut shot between 6,500 and 7,000, for the draw shot between 6,500 and 6,000 consistently. Putting a speed pocket in there changes that launch. If it changes that launch, you have to have that spin rate to marry it. You can probably do that. But what you can't afford to have for a good player is a 6-iron that will jump based on slight strike location and go 6-iron maybe goes 195, 185, depending on the ball speed, that then jumps and all of a sudden goes 205. That becomes a real problem for an elite player. So I think putting speed pockets in still hasn't been perfected for the slightly more efficient, higher ball speeds and club delivery numbers. So we will not see it in the next 15, 20 years being in a set that is for your good player, because your good to better player will always turn to, I like the fact that knowing that if the flag is on the back of the green and it's 195 and long of that green is 210 and that's water, I'm going to just hit a nice 6-iron that's going to be 190 or max 195, depending on elevation, wind, and whatever else lie. But having the confidence that that ball isn't going to go that mystery number. And so I just don't think we're quite there yet. Guinea pigs again. We're getting there, but we're not there.
I think he was after a yes or no.
No.
He doesn't do yes or no.
I'm on the Derby bus, lads. I'm on the Derby bus.
Right. Well, before we go, let's give it one last round of applause for Patrick Reed and take our hats off. There you go.
And we give a shout out to Mickey the Fox. Mickey the Fox. Everyone remember that?
Come in, do your
God
job.
rest his soul. Fella cannot be alive anymore. Those Belfry boys listening to it. What a great guy. We used to go in and he used to tell you, didn't he? Listen, lads, this is how life goes. You come in, you do your job, and then you F off. And I think right now, I've come to this podcast. I've done my job, lads, and now I've got to go. Peace out.
See you next week, guys.